All right. Hey, everyone. It's Ron over at baseballsimresearch.com. Just wanted to go through two things here um, in the board reader version 6.0.6. If you haven't upgraded to 606 yet, please do so. I basically will only be supporting the current version, mainly because you don't. Because nothing's stored in the TBR, the board reader, except for current game, etc. That's what we're going to go ahead and do. So anyway, uh, version 606, I want to show you two things. One, I want to show you moving the DH into the field and how you get the pitcher into the lineup in a spot. And then I also want to show you how the auto end at bat feature works, things to be aware of, etc. So first off, putting the DH in the field. We're going to roll for Mookie Betts. He strikes out, double to right center. And let's just say that on that double to right center by Benintendi, that the right fielder, Gomez, for Tampa Bay was injured, right? So let's say for whatever reason Gomez was injured, and we want to put Ref Snyder out in right, and that means we need to bring the pitcher into the lineup. Now, it's your game, right? If you literally want to bring somebody into Gomez's spot, put him at DH, illegally moving the DH to another spot, go for it. It's your game. Doesn't really matter. But if you want to do it right, first we need to take Ref Snyder and put him in right field. All right. Now we're going to take Gomez. We need to put the pitcher Archer in Gomez's spot. Now you'll notice that when you drop down the players, Archer is not listed. Why isn't he listed? Because he's already in the game in a slot. It's not a lineup slot, but he is the current starting pitcher. He's not in the drop down. So if you know anything about Excel, to put Archer in cell, whatever it is, D25, all you need to do, put Archer, comma C. You hit enter, but we get this error. The value entered is not valid. A user has restricted values that can be entered into this cell. It's because we have what's called a data validation setting restriction on that cell. You can only enter in things in this drop-down box. So, if we also wanted to change the pitcher at the same time, piece of cake. We go in, we choose Nathan Eovaldi, and we put him pitcher. Everything's fine. To get Archer into that lineup, though, I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. Control Z, Control Z. There we go. So Gomez is still there. We need to get Archer into this lineup. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to override that restriction. The way to do that is we click on Data, the Data tab. We click on Data Validation. And again, we click on Data Validation. And over here on this error alert, it says Show Error Alert after invalid data is entered. Well, we just got an error after we entered, quote, invalid data, unquote. We're going to get rid of that. Boom. Now we're able to go Archer, C. He's able to go in there. One, boom, everything's fine. So that's cool. What you don't want to end up doing is routinely getting rid of data validation, because it is helpful. That way you don't put in a username a player name that doesn't exist, the wrong player name, etc. So once you've made the change, you want to go to data validation and click on data validation again. And guess what? We're going to go ahead and turn the error back on. That way we can't, enter an invalid name in there and have that problem down the road. Or we create another game and we forget that it's there. We end up with weird players. Keep in mind, the board reader is not a program. The board reader is really a helper program. or a helper spreadsheet. It will help you play NPNG Plus with the board reader, but it's not necessarily going to make you play correctly, right? You can mess with stuff all you want on here. And in theory, you can completely mess things up, which obviously you don't want to do. So, um, you probably want to set things back when you need to override something. Keep in mind, yellow is typically things that you can override. You shouldn't override the current PRN. We probably need to, at some point, make that a field that we don't recommend that you change. Um, but, I can go over here and choose Senior League, Senior Circuit. I can choose Atlanta. Now, unfortunately, actually, you'll still have Mookie Betts in there, but you can still manually set up the board reader to play a game just like back in the good old days, before we added all of this massive amount of automation. We could say Ronald Acuna, and then Freddie Freeman, and then because I don't really watch the Braves much anymore, at that point I'm kind of lost. Yeah, I couldn't tell you if half of these guys are pitchers or catchers off the top of my head. Now we go back to the 70s or 80s. Yeah, I probably can create a lineup right from scratch. So you can still play the game manually. Make the bases empty, nobody out. So keep in mind, if you change the base situation manually, obviously changing number of outs really isn't going to change anything. Infield, in or deep, where you're getting the PRN from. This is kind of it's set automatically, programmatically, but I don't think overriding it would even do you any good. So you basically just will leave that one alone. But if you change the base situation, you need to make sure the base runners are tracked properly. Right now, Freddie Freeman was on second. That's what this number means. This number here is the line, the pitcher. It identifies the pitcher who's responsible for Freddie Freeman, which in this case, in theory, would be Chris Archer. And he is on line 2. Okay, if he was down here, if this pitcher, there was a pitcher here in row 4, then the number, and that was who was responsible for Freeman, this first column would be a 4. So if you do mess with things manually, because you can fix things. Like I had a couple of people this week, they got the error unable to determine play result, or they got an error that says first base is not open. You can recover from all of those situations and continue your game without interrupting anything. I don't write perfect code. No baseball game that I've played has had perfect code. Let's say we get an unable to, let's roll, right? Pop out second base. And let's say when we click end at bat, we get unable to determine play result. Well, there's nobody on base, right? All we need is an out. We don't really care what the out is. It's not a strikeout, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's say if we were getting an end at bat and we, quote unquote, were stuck and couldn't do anything, well, you actually can. Let's switch to roll dice manually and click on roll. And let's say we want to roll a 34, because that's going to generate a 31 over here. And that's just a generic out too. And then we could click end at bat and we can continue on with the game. If you get any error messages that say unable to determine play result, then do a print screen, move that box that pops up here right in the center of the screen, slide it over here out of the way somewhere, either to the left over here on the where the teams are, or over here on the right, but don't cover the batter card, because I'd like to see what's there. Do a print screen and send me the details. One of the things that you don't want to send me when you get unable to determine play results is if it says, runner caught stealing, blah, 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 and you click end at bat. Well, the at bat is not over. If somebody was caught stealing, and that's it for the play, the batter's still up. And that's why you get that error message, unable to determine play result. It's because the batter's not done. The program can't determine what to do with the batter because the batter hasn't gone anywhere yet. He's still at bat. So that's one of the things. The other thing that somebody reported was it was a fielder's choice, and the code had a typo in it and wasn't able to put people on base correctly. Well, it was also the end of the inning. So first base wasn't being cleared. The error message was, first base is not empty. So to get around that, you could have come, if you get that, anyone can come down here, type in zeros here, which removes the runner on first, and then just click end at bat, and that will get around the error. Again, send me the error, but you're not stuck. There's probably maybe only 1 or 2 or 3 situations with the board reader where it doesn't know what to do and you can't get around it. So think outside the box when you're faced with an error, if you are faced with one, because again, this is a helper. This is not a program. So in some instances, in many instances, you can get around the issue by just getting creative. Anyway, okay, so let's end at bat here. Auto end at bat is a new feature right now to resolve an at bat. It's roll, end at bat, roll, end at bat. 2 clicks, and as somebody who's currently close to going on the gaming disabled list due to tendinitis in my right elbow, if you've never had tendinitis, I will warn you, do your stretching exercises when you're working on the computer, especially for your mousing arm. Do your stretching exercises, your anti-carpal tunnel, your anti-tendinitis exercises. Do them. Tendinitis is not something that you want to deal with. It can be some of the most consistent, persistent, excruciating pain that I've ever dealt with. So I earlier, a couple weekends ago, I played 31 games of an NP3 replay while I'm working on my second base coach utility. I was mousing left-handed, not right-handed, because I did have I've had this arm issue since August, the very first week of August. But now I'm to the point where I've slowed down my gaming considerably, and I can't even really roll dice. Hurts like a what. So anyway, that's kind of beside the point. Auto end at bat, though, will decrease the amount of clicking that you need to do. So it's as much a convenience thing as it is injury protection as far as I'm concerned. If you enable auto end at bat, and JD Martinez is up, right? After all options are set, click roll. We click roll, and in theory, nothing changed. It still says after all options are set, click roll, versus when we click roll, when we don't have auto end at bat enabled, strikeout, and then we click end at bat. With auto end at bat enabled, if the plate appearance ends with the results in that cell, in other words, if the batter has a destination, even if that destination is sitting his ass back on the bench because he made an out, then it will automatically run the end at bat code for you. What it won't do is if you have a 2 balls result, actually 2 balls, I think it will prompt you. Yeah, it'll prompt you. If, however, it's a caught stealing, a balk, a wild pitch, pass ball, something that doesn't resolve the plate appearance for the batter, then the results will still display down in here. So you're thinking, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? This is great, auto end at bat, but I don't know what happened. You're going to be reading this mini play-by-play down here. All right. So we're going to roll with Kiermaier up. Roll. Nothing changed, but Kiermaier down here, fouled out, put out to the third baseman. And we can just literally, Gomez just homered, Cron struck out, and now Bogarts is up. Now, the problem with doing this is it can quickly become a click fest. And you can kind of start to lull yourself to sleep. Right? We'll just click here. We'll just click roll. Oh, all right. Here's one of the examples. We just got a 2-ball result. And of course, the board reader does not keep track of the count. The board reader doesn't know if the count was 2 balls or more already, and therefore it is a walk, or there were no balls or 1 ball, and this is still not a walk. So you have to determine, issue the walk, yes or no. If you click no, the 2 balls is still there. You click roll again. If I had clicked yes, it would have just ran the end at bat code and walked the player. So, I mean, as you can see, you can whip right through a game really fast. You know, you can keep your eyes on what's going on down there in the play-by-play, and you can get through a game super quick. Might not exactly be enjoyable for you, might be more enjoyable. Who knows? That's up to you with what you do with your gaming. But it is there and it's available. So anyway, that's it for tonight's episode. As you know, NPNG Plus can be downloaded at ntlpt.com, nationalpastime.com. My website, www.baseballsimresearch.com. All sorts of details on player usage for your replays and using players realistically. And that actually is what Second Base Coach is going to be designed to do as well. It's going to, recommend to you when you should have defensive replacements, when you should pinch hit, who you should pinch hit with, when you should pinch run, who you should pinch run with, who you should bring in as a reliever. Possibly what it's also going to do is recommend when you sacrifice, recommend when you pull a pitcher, recommend maybe someday when you hit and run. And it's not, let's see, this statement's kind of weird. It's not related to a generic strategy of managing a baseball game. In other words, it's not based on some theory of when should I sacrifice, when should I pinch hit, when should I pinch run, who should I bring in from the bullpen. It's not at all based on theory. What it's based on actually is exact data, exact usage data from that particular season by that particular manager or managers for that particular team. So, when, 1934, Babe Ruth was replaced quite a bit late in the game, far more so than other players. So it's not a generic, replace your poor defensive guy late in the game. It's this guy here in these score, inning, and other parameter situations was replaced this percentage of time, generate a random number and determine if it falls within that percentage, and if so, recommend that step. Complete tangent, I know, from this video, but that's what it's going to do. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Hopefully you learned how to put the DH in the field and get the pitcher into the lineup. Some ideas on how to recover from errors that you can't continue without working around somehow, because again, the TBR is a helper. And finally, you learned a little bit about the auto end at bat and when it's actually going to end the at bat, when it's not, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I'm going to sign off for tonight, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Take it easy, guys.